This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Bob Holt has started his travels out to the Beehive State this morning. And we appreciate him stopping by here on halftime on a travel day. Bob, how are you? Where are you right now?
Well, I'm still at the house packing up, so getting ready to head out in a few minutes here. So how you guys doing?
Doing all right. I'm not traveling until tomorrow, so this is it's a little bit different than the travel you did last week at Mississippi State or for Arlington, because those are drives. Have you made it out to Utah before, or is this the first travel out there for you?
The only time I've ever been in Utah is fly through the Salt Lake City airport. So this would be the first time I'd actually be outside of the airport in Utah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It looks like the weather's pretty decent, and I've heard a lot of nice things about the BYU campus and the stadium there in Provo, which is just a short drive. I think everybody goes there probably flies to Salt Lake City, I assume. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
There's a foreign feel here, like a mysterious feel for this game. You know, brand new opponent, never played them before. I think a lot of people that are traveling out there are taking the opportunity to turn it into a little bit of a vacation, see the sights and all that. It's a little bit different than, like a trip to Knoxville or a trip to Arlington, a place where the team has been before, many of the fans have been before. This feels like a mystery to a lot of people right now.
Yeah, kind of, not the Colorado State, obviously not in Utah or BYU's class as a football program, but I remember going out to Colorado State, I guess it was in 2018. That was a fun trip because you flew out to Denver, and it was in September, so the weather was nice. And I remember doing some things in the Denver area. Colorado, Fort Collins is a pretty nice city where the Colorado State campus is, but obviously, that stadium, no offense to Colorado State, it's not, BYU's it's a sellout. I saw probably have 65,000 or whatever. You got the beautiful mountains as a backdrop. I've just seen it on TV. If people maybe watch BYU Baylor, or maybe, of course, the Notre Dame game was in Las Vegas, but if they got to watch the BYU Baylor game in early September, you can see what the crowd and the atmosphere is like. It looks, a lot like what you'd expect from an SEC school.
Well, yesterday at the coaches' show, and I think on the teleconference, there were positive updates about KJ Jefferson, and we expected that coming into the week. Pretty much they said Friday he was okay, but they had already made a decision Thursday that he wouldn't play against Mississippi State. So I think they've known since Friday that he would play as long as he could get jostled around a little bit, and everything is just peachy as far as his condition is concerned. And so KJ will be out there, and that's going to pay some dividends for this team right now. But on the other side of the ball, there were no updates on Miles Slusher, on Kyrie Johnson, on Jaden Johnson. So, Bob, it feels like they're getting back the most important piece that was missing personnel-wise last weekend, but still a lot of mystery about who's available on the back end of the defense.
Yeah, and Sam Pittman said after the Mississippi State game he expected KJ to be available. It's possible he could have played last week, but that was wise of Sam and the coaching staff, medical folks, not to play him in that game. You don't want to. We're not talking about an ankle, or a wrist. We're talking about your head. And so, it sounds like he's had a good week of practice, and I think he's a full go. We didn't talk to KJ, but talking to the other guys, they said he looked good, looked sharp. I think Sam, I'm maybe paraphrasing here, but basically said you never could have told he was out last week. That's how sharp he looks. So that's obviously good news for Arkansas. I got a feeling it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. I think BYU can put up points on Arkansas's defense, especially with the secondary so banged up. And so Arkansas is going to have to be able to answer offensively, do better in short yardage, and have some big plays when they're there, not turn it over, those kinds of things. It should be a really good game. I basically look at it as an SEC game, just a lot farther west, than usual.
You mentioned the struggles on short yardage situations, and I think a lot of us have focused on a lack of what has been expected to be a deep passing game, and maybe that'll play itself out a little bit better because we see Bryce Stevens getting a little more run. Keytron Jackson, I think, is more of a deep threat, but This is a team, Bob, that is built to be able to, we thought, convert 4th and 1, 3rd down and 2, 4th and goal from the 1. That was a struggle against Mississippi State. And that's a big surprise because that really feels like it gets to the heart of what this team is supposed to be good at.
Well, it's a veteran offensive line. I mean, there's a lot of starts, well over 100 starts among those players. A lot of, 6-year guys, 5th-year guys, 4th-year guys, very veteran group. And I'm sure, they take a lot of pride in being able to control the line of scrimmage. And they obviously didn't do that in Mississippi State. BYU's had some of the same issues. They had a 4th and 1. They were down 8 with about, I think, 3-some to play against Notre Dame. They had a 4th and 1 to Notre Dame 27, so they were driving for a touchdown and a possible tying 2-point conversion. They got stuffed on 4th and 1. So, I think both teams, they both kind of been starting slow in terms of falling behind in the first quarter and having some short yardage issues. And they both were ranked earlier in the year and aren't ranked now. Both have some good wins. BYU beat Baylor, Arkansas beat Cincinnati and South Carolina. The South Carolina win's looking better with what South Carolina did at Kentucky last week, but they've also had some humbling losses. BYU lost at Oregon, I think 40-21, and had a shot to beat Notre Dame. So they're two teams kind of in search of they're in bounce back mode, and of course BYU's an independent for 1 more year before joining the Big 12. They play a pretty tough schedule. It's ironic they play Liberty next week, and I think Arkansas plays Liberty the week after that. So I guess Liberty coaches can probably combine some film study getting ready for these next two teams. But, I think both teams feel a real sense of urgency, not that they don't usually, but I think it would be just a huge win for whoever can get it because I think it'll feel like whoever wins, they'll feel like their season's back on track.
Well, it is definitely. Coach Pittman alluded to this, and when you look at the other SEC team schedules in the month of October, this game against BYU is an outlier. I mean, they're independent, but they're going to be Big 12. They're a big-time program nonetheless. And Arkansas this year scheduled 2 teams that are moving to the Big 12 next year. But no other team in the SEC is playing a team of this caliber from outside the conference in the month of October. And it's rare that Arkansas has done this, too. This is usually when you'll play, like a UAPB, like last year, and when a lot of other teams have their FCS opponents. So, I mean, that makes this game stand out a little bit. And we remember last year, you had 3-game losing streak, and then you played UAPB in Little Rock. A lot of the guys didn't have to play in the entirety of that game. Certainly the second half, we had a running clock the entire second half, and then you had the bye week. So that's why I look at, they talk about, well, you ended last year's losing streak. It wasn't against a good team. This is a whole different ball of wax, and it's because you're playing a program the likes of which nobody else in the SEC is stepping out of the conference to play this month.
Yeah, it is unusual. I mean, when Arkansas has played, teams like USC or TCU, those have been early in the year. Those have been in September, and that's usually what, Florida played Utah early, and Alabama played Texas, and Auburn played Penn State, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess this is, BYU's an independent, so I imagine their schedule's a bit challenging to put together because, they usually play some Pac-12 teams. They played Notre Dame. They're playing. They haven't. This, I think, will be their 11th game against the team that's currently, that was an SEC member when they played them. Played Mississippi State. It's weird scheduling, and it's really honestly not good timing for Arkansas because they're beat up and they could use a bye. It's kind of funny they could use a BYE and instead they're playing BYU, but it's just the way the schedule falls. It's like Sam says, they're not going to cancel the game. I don't think Arkansas wants to forfeit, so they have to go out there and try to play their best. And they're banged up. But I know BYU, their quarterback, he kind of shrugged this off. But the media reports there were that he's got a sore throwing shoulder. He played against Notre Dame, but he only threw 17 passes. I think it was 9 out of 17. Of course, he only had the ball for like 46 plays. But Notre Dame really controlled the ball. I know time of possession with hurry-up offenses sometimes gets kind of put on the back burner, but when you have the ball for 41 minutes, like Notre Dame did, that's a pretty big deal,
Well, I mean, and that and the injuries seem to be one reason why defensively Arkansas has struggled recently. They've been on the field a ton. I mean, a ton, especially in the first half. And, that's going to lead to some issues in the second half of a game. And, I look at Coach Pittman last night is talking about, we've talked to a lot of, medical personnel about how to handle altitude. They'll have oxygen on the sidelines. There'll be a ton of hydration and everything. But that's also why, I think we talk a lot about the importance of a fast start in the context of the game in and of itself. I think when you look at playing in altitude, I would imagine you want to keep your defense off the field early as much as possible. And BYU, they allowed Notre Dame to possess the ball for over 10 minutes in the first quarter last week.
Yeah, BYU, I think their very first offensive play was an interception, not the way you want to start. So, Notre Dame dominated the total yards, had close to 500 yards. I think BYU had 280. And honestly, got to give BYU credit. They were down 25-6, I think, and came back and closed it to 25-20. And then even after giving up a field goal, had a shot to win. So, they're a team. Obviously, they've got talent. They're going to come back, if they fall behind. But they're at home. They're going to have that home crowd behind them. It's a real big deal. You got to remember, they're not, they're getting ready to go to the Big 12. They have not been a Power 5 program. I know they won a national title out back in '84. But, they're not an SEC or not yet a Big 12 team. So I think it's a pretty big deal for them to get an SEC team out to their place. I think it's only the second time it's happened, so it's a pretty big deal for them. I'm sure their crowd's going to really be amped.
Well, Bob, travel safe, man. I know it's a long day of travel to get out there to Provo, so travel safe. Hope you make it when you're supposed to make it, because we know nowadays that isn't always the case. So good luck.
Football is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.